Hey everyone, my name is Aaron. Welcome back to the Critic Sensei YouTube channel, your go-to channel for movie reviews, TV reviews, and updates with the entertainment industry. My last Acolyte video was going to be my final one, but I think this may be, unless other news does come up. And it's again with the showrunner Leslye Headland blaming and attacking the fans over the failure of The Acolyte. So today we're diving into the recent conclusion of The Acolyte, and it's safe to say that The Acolyte took Star Wars in a direction that has left fans scratching their heads. And this was directed by Leslye Headland with the leadership of Kathleen Kennedy. As most of us know, The Acolyte had horrible ratings throughout, and the viewership was so low to the point where it was cancelled. I stated this in previous videos. Acolyte was barely on the top 10 of the Nielsen list. Episode 1 and 2, the premiere, they were on it because people didn't know what they were getting themselves into. Episodes 3 through 7 were not even on the top 10. The finale, episode 8, was on the top 10 for a very, very short time. Then it was bumped off not too long after. I'll put a graph on the screen right here showing the shows that had higher viewership of The Acolyte. And as you can see, I don't even know half these shows. It makes sense, like The Boys that had several seasons would be higher, but these other shows on this list, I haven't even heard of them. And with Star Wars being such a big IP, it is a huge embarrassment to not make the Nielsen top 10 list because the viewership was so poor. So the show hit a record for all-time lows for Lucasfilm. And it's clear that Disney's agenda they've been pushing was a huge part of the downfall of The Acolyte. For those of you that managed to sit through all 8 episodes of The Acolyte, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's obvious that Leslye Headland was trying to push the agenda, the message, over good storytelling, good character development, and on top of that, the people in charge of The Acolyte, you can tell they were not Star Wars fans. They knew surface level stuff, and they were able to break canon, and they were proud of it. They were happy to push certain ideologies instead of focusing on good writing and storytelling. That's why the whole show was a mess. We were told at the beginning of the show it was a big mystery and there will be a big reveal later on, but there was no big reveal. We were told who the Sith was right away, and people were saying, oh, it's not a Sith, but later on they said it was a Sith, and there were so many plot holes throughout. If you guys didn't see my video going over the plot holes on The Acolyte, I'll put that video in the description down below. And before we get going here, I want to thank all of you guys for the support. I've been making videos on this channel for a little more than 3 weeks. We're at 150 subscribers and the views are climbing, and honestly it does mean a lot. I really do want to thank all of you guys. And the reason I made this Acolyte video again is because Leslye Headland again is pushing back against the fans. She's been lashing out at the fans because of the cancellation and the failure of The Acolyte. That was definitely a common theme for this whole show, with the actors, the creators, instead of taking the blame on themselves for the poor writing, poor character development, and poor acting overall, instead of taking some valid criticism to better themselves, they instead blamed the fans, blamed the audience. They were doing this and the show wasn't complete yet. And if you don't like the actors in the show, you don't like the directors of the show, there's a good chance people just won't like the show. On top of that, they were pushing their woke agenda instead of focusing on good storytelling, which made everything a huge mess. This reaction was really similar to the reaction we got from The Last Jedi. And The Last Jedi at the time seemed like a horrible movie, but compared to The Acolyte, it almost seems like a masterpiece. Now let's talk about the recent developments at Lucasfilm HQ. After Bob Iger decided to cancel the 2nd season of The Acolyte, Kathleen Kennedy has been desperately trying to uncancel it, to get the show going still, because she's been stating she wanted to retire and leave on a win, which The Acolyte was the farthest thing from a win. It failed horribly. Honestly, probably the worst show, the worst project that Disney has ever created. It had the worst backlash, completely divided fans. It really made Disney's stock go down. And it seems like Leslye Headland's automatic response to any criticism is to lash out at the fans, calling them toxic or saying toxic males are the reason why my show failed. She has the inability to take responsibility for her creation. Instead, it's the toxic males' fault. They're review bombing this. Our 18% Rotten Tomatoes is because of all the review bombing, which is not true. She says there's a silent majority that loves the show, but they're too scared to speak up because the people that don't like the show will attack them. Which, let's be honest, 90% of people do not like this show. There is a 10% of people that do like it, which is perfectly fine. You can like whatever show you like. But the numbers are obvious, the viewership was obvious, and on top of that, the ratings were so poor, you can't refute this. Disney does not know who their audience is, and that's a big reason why this failed. And another big reason why they failed is because they had Leslye Headland in charge. She was the former assistant of Harvey Weinstein, and I don't know who thought it was a good idea to put her in charge of such a big project. $180 million down the drain. So according to Headland, the problem relies with the fans. She believes that the fans, these toxic fans, are resistant to the new direction she's trying to push Star Wars and Lucasfilm. What's really interesting is that Headland claims that her focus was on addressing issues like sexism and the representation of LGBTQ plus community, and getting the representation in Star Wars. She openly stated that was her priority, even before ensuring that the story and characters were up to par. While representation and inclusiveness is important, it can't be a priority over good storytelling and writing. And I feel like that wasn't obvious, but for Leslye Headland, Kathleen Kennedy, it definitely wasn't. They chose to push their narrative, their woke initiative, over good storytelling, which overall made this whole project fail, and that is why there is no season 2. This resulted in a show that felt completely disconnected from what Star Wars actually is. Leslye Headland also stated she took a lot of inspiration from Rian Johnson, who directed The Last Jedi. As we all know, The Last Jedi was another polarizing project by Disney. It really wasn't good. The Last Jedi was horrible, but compared to The Acolyte, it definitely was a lot better. I remember Leslye Headland was so proud, giving parallels between The Acolyte and The Last Jedi. But look at the end result of what happened. Bob Iger had to fire so many people. They fired the marketing team. They fired the commercial people. Look what happened. The project failed. No season 2. Leslye Headland is out of a job, but I have a feeling they may keep her around, hopefully not, but knowing Disney, you'll never know what's going to happen. And with everything going on, with a huge failure, Bob Iger fired a lot of people in result of this huge failure. They fired the marketing team, people in charge of the commercials. The people that should have got fired were the people in charge of the storytelling, and those people are Leslye Headland, Kathleen Kennedy, and all the people in charge of storytelling at Disney and Lucasfilm. And even Bob Iger at this point, because he had to greenlight all of this. He greenlight The Acolyte. And honestly, Bob Iger should take responsibility for this as well. He is the CEO of this company. He had to greenlight The Acolyte. And with him doing this, he won't take accountability as well. Instead, they'll fire other people, blame it on them, blame it on the fans. But the higher-ups will never take responsibility for this failure. It's worth noting that Headland continues to claim there's a loud, toxic minority of fans that are the problem. She stated that these fans don't deserve to be fans. She seems to believe that anyone that isn't aligned with her vision is a part of this toxic group that refuses to see change. But in reality, it's the fans that were passionate about Star Wars that feel betrayed by Lucasfilm, by Disney, because they completely destroyed this IP that was beloved for so long. Honestly, I'm not sure how they did it. Bob Iger, Leslye Headland, Kathleen Kennedy, they were able to destroy one of the biggest IPs to ever be created just because they wanted to push their own personal agenda, this woke initiative, over good storytelling. And look at their stocks now. Look at everything going on with all these lawsuits they're going through, all the failure, all the billions of dollars they're losing. Now look at Snow White that's coming out next year. It's bound to fail with their woke actors, woke directors, and their woke storyline overall. And with everything going on, Disney just failing over and over, and it doesn't look good for their company as a whole. To add to this drama, Leslye Headland was boasting, was bragging about creating this team that knew little to nothing about Star Wars. And these were the people in charge of The Acolyte. Keep this in mind. She was proud to hire people that knew nothing about Star Wars. She thought this was a strength of theirs. But this only reinforces the idea that the show was made for people who didn't understand or care about the source material. At the end of the day, it is clear that The Acolyte did more harm than good to Disney and Lucasfilm as a whole. At this point, I am not looking forward to any future Star Wars projects. I hope the damage that Leslye Headland and Kathleen Kennedy created is not beyond repair. Especially how they've been handling everything in regards to Lucasfilm the past couple of years. It is honestly so sad to see a franchise that was loved by so many people. And myself, I'm a huge fan of Star Wars, always have been since I was a little kid. It's sad to see where the franchise is today, and I hope they can turn this around, but I stated this before, I feel like the only way to make big change is to swap out management, put people that are actually passionate about Star Wars in these positions to make good storytelling and to not break lore. And that is just my take. What do you guys all think about this? So please leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you're new. Leave a comment down below what you think of Leslye Headland's approach to hiring people that had little to no knowledge about Star Wars, and these people being in charge of the Acolyte. And I do respond back to every single comment I get. Peace out, and I'll see you guys in the next video.